Welcome to our latest Cuadrilla webcast here from Preston New Road near Blackpool, and thanks very much indeed for all the interest that you've shown in the drilling operations here. The Lancashire-based company Cuadrilla is searching for shale gas here and has completed nearly a year's work in that task. As you know, this site is the first in the UK to be drilling horizontally in the search for the trillions of cubic feet of shale gas that lie beneath our feet. Our guest today is Mark Lappin, the Technical Director of Cuadrilla, and if you've got any questions for him, you can enter them in the chat box at the bottom of the screen. Mark, if I can begin by asking a little bit about yourself, how did you get into this industry?
Well, I'm a geologist by background. I entered the industry, oil and gas in the North Sea in the early 80s, and I've been in the business ever since, living and working around the world.
So you've been out on the North Sea rigs, have you?
Oh, I've been on North Sea rigs and North Sea seismic vessels.
Very interesting, I should think, that sort of work.
Yeah, very.
Let's get up to date with where we are now in the search for shale gas here. Give us a progress report, if you would.
Yeah, sure. The last time you were here, we were drilling the vertical pilot hole. The point of that is to gather data to tell us where to put the two horizontal wells that we plan to drill. And now today, behind us, we're just kicking off to drill the first of the two horizontal wells.
You did a geophysical survey here in January. What was the purpose of that?
Yeah, it's a seismic survey is its name, and what the idea of that is it will put sound waves down into the earth, and at the end of the well, the bottom of the well, we can have a listening device, and the time it takes the sound waves to travel down to that device will tell us something about the properties of the rock and help us fit it into the 3D seismic survey that we've previously acquired. So
that's an absolutely vital part of dealing with this horizontal drilling, which is the next stage of the process.
It's absolutely required to be able to put the horizontal well into the layer that we want.
Well, thank you very much indeed for that progress report. Protecting the environment, as you've always stressed in the past, is really important, and we're going to go and look and see how progress is going on that now.
Okay.
Webcast viewers may remember that we were in this part of the site in the autumn, and this is where the rainwater, and it is Lancashire, so it is quite a lot of rainwater does fall on this site, is actually collected in that trench over there, and it is monitored. And this is really an important part of the environmental protection policy on the site.
It is, Jim. As you'll recall, we did have a wet 2017. We had a lot of rainfall, and the site is designed with a membrane, you may recall, that goes under the whole of the site, and that will catch any rainwater that we have at site, and the rainwater will then go to the trench that we have running around our operations site. And then from there we can sample it and make sure it's all right to be taken off to a water treatment plant.
Well, let's now look at how you actually do find out that it's all right with the data processing. And actually, if we move over here, we actually can see some of the equipment. There's some testing going on at the moment. So how is this data collected?
Yeah, it's sampling at the moment. This is one of 4 well bores. We have a well bore at each corner of the site, and those were drilled over a year before we started operations. And what they'll do through the continuous sampling, overseen by the Environment Agency, what they will be able to do is show that we haven't changed the nature of the water beneath our site with our operations.
All this water was being taken by road in tankers, and then you applied for a change of that system to the Environment Agency. Why was that?
Yeah, that's correct. We've been taking tankers off once we've sampled the water, but that's a lot of vehicles on the road, and it's vehicles that we don't need to have on the road. In the meantime, we've actually learned to understand the nature of the water, the rainwater to the site, and going forward with the sampling and oversight by the Environment Agency, we'll be able to release that water, providing we can demonstrate that it still meets those qualities.
So it'll just be released through the normal drainage system?
It'll be released into the drainage system.
But just to emphasise, the Environment Agency will continue to monitor it?
It'll continue to be monitored, that's correct. And it'll all be available, all the water sampling that we have is available through our e-portal on the website.
So people can check up what's going on there?
Check up all the time, yes.
OK, well, we've spent some time here focusing on what's going on the surface. Now we're going to move on to the coring cabin and find out what's going on down below.
OK, let's do that.
Mark, here we are with the cores that have come up 3 kilometres and are hundreds of millions of years old. Just remind us of how important this coring operation is.
Well, as I said at the beginning, Jim, I'm a geologist by background, and ultimately it's all about the rocks. We can gather all sorts of data, and we do, and it's all very useful, but you really need to be able to get rock samples to the surface to find out how good they are for the natural resource. And
how much sampling have you done? How many cores have you got?
We collected core across 3 zones in order to find out the best place to drill the horizontal wells in the upper Bowland Shale and the lower Bowland Shale, and we've gathered close to 400 feet of core from those 3 zones.
And we've seen previously that from a core sample you can actually see the gas coming out, so there's no doubt at all there is gas in them, their cores.
There's certainly gas in these rocks. That's been known for a long time through coal mining across the north of England. We know that they're high in gas content, but it's not just, that's not the only thing that we have to understand. We now understand the ability of the rock to hold gas. What we also need to understand is the ability of the rock to deliver the gas through the stimulation, through the creation of fractures. So this rock, as we have previously announced, is showing that it's very capable of being fractured. This is the sort of thing that we're aiming to create. These are natural fractures that Mother Nature's created and filled with a carbonate cement. What we'll do is aim to create similar fractures but fill them full of sand, and that will allow the gas to flow from the rocks into the fractures, from the fractures into the well, from the well to the surface and into the grid.
Okay, that deals with the gas that's in the rock. I mean, what about testing it to see how easy it is going to be to drill it? I mean, do you want weak rock, strong rock? I mean, what's...
Well, for the drilling, you get the rock you get. It's as simple as that, really. And these are very competent rocks that have been drilled hundreds, thousands of times for the coal industry and the onshore oil and gas business. And what these cores are showing us is that they have a brittle nature, so that will allow them to be fractured.
Well, thank you very much indeed for all that. I'm sure there are an awful lot of questions that people got to ask, so now let's go and get them.
Okay.
Well, from the cosy core cabin, we're out in the bracing air here in Lancashire for our first round of questions to Mark Lappin. If you've got one, please enter it in the chat box that you can see at the bottom of the screen. And Mark, if I can actually come back to those cores, you've got 400 feet of cores. What's going to happen to them?
Good question. Just basking in the lovely sunshine here, Jim. But yes, you're right. We collected just under 400 feet of core. We collected it from 3 zones in the Bowland Shale, and all of that core comes up to the surface here, and then we carry out analysis on site at the blue cabin behind us. A lot of analysis goes on there. We can slab it and take samples, and they can be sent off, including samples sent to the BGS, the British Geological Survey, but also to companies that specialise in the various types of analysis that we need in order to figure out which is the best layer to drill horizontal wells into the shale gas reservoir.
In these question and answer sessions, we get quite a lot of basic interest in how this rock ever came to be here. Can you briefly sort of tell us, because you were telling me off air that it all started, what you're drilling into started off in the southern hemisphere of the world, not in Lancashire at all.
Well, I guess it was even then it was Lancashire, but the same body of land has moved across the globe, and while it was sitting on the equator with an awful lot of the material that you'd see on the equator today, a lot of that organic rich material was buried in layers, the Carboniferous we call it, and that was buried there, and then the land has basically drifted further north.
These are these tectonic plates
which
move around the earth and cause all the earthquakes even today.
Tectonic plates, that's exactly right. They drifted north since 350 million years ago, since we were sitting on the equator. That was where all the carbon-intense layers were deposited that we are now looking for to get natural gas from.
Well, it's a slight diversion there, but we have had questions about that sort of basic issue, and it is very interesting indeed. Mm-hmm. Now, another question's come in. obviously you knew this was the right place to drill, but you did another geological survey in January. Why was that?
The geophysical survey, I think you're referring to, the seismic survey, was carried out here at in early January. The initial seismic survey, we did the 3D seismic survey. I'll try and keep all the technical jargon out of this. That was a surface seismic where the sound wave source is on the surface and the listening devices, the receivers, are also on the surface. And the sound waves go down to the different layers of rock and are reflected back up to the listening devices at the surface. That gives us an image of the Earth which we can use, but it's an image that's in time. It's in the time it takes for those sound waves to travel down and back. Now that we've drilled a well, we can actually place a sound receiver in the well and make the surface waves go from the surface down to that listening device, and now we can tie the depth in that volume to the time in the volume and get a much more accurate image, and that'll help us target the two lateral wells.
The lateral wells now, so this is coming to the horizontal drilling now. I mean, has that actually started?
The horizontal drilling, as people know, we've drilled vertical pilot holes. That's given us the information we need in order to decide which are the best layers, and again back to the core, that's the analysis we're going through. In the meantime, we've been building angle, because to drill a horizontal well, as people might recall from the first of our PNR live forums with Eric, he described how you build that angle very, very gradually, a gradual curve that eventually goes into drilling the horizontal well, which is what we're working on right now.
There's a question about basically why you're drilling horizontally. I mean, you've obviously done the vertical, but why horizontal?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's not that long ago that we used to drill all vertical wells, but you're accessing a layer of rock, so you have to put a lot of vertical wells in to sample the gas from something that is essentially laid down horizontally. So once you've got a good zone, a seam, we might call it in mining, that we'd follow with mines, well, now instead of drilling vertical holes to exploit that plane, we can drill a horizontal well along it. It means less wells.
Yeah, and so these strata, they're obviously there. They don't suddenly disappear. So that if you know that the gas is there, it's going to be there in horizontal strata all the way.
Yeah, you can follow layers from the Pennines to here. Some of these layers, not exactly horizontally, but they were laid down in beds that went from Eastern Europe out to the Appalachians.
Now, but just a question about these drills, because they're steel drills, and when I last looked, steel doesn't bend. So how are you going to do this sort of? There must be a bending process in all that.
Well, again, to some extent that was covered in the first one, where I mean, you can get steel pipes, the production pipe. It will actually go in a gradual curve, and we will use that gradual curve to build up the angle we need in order to go from being vertical into being horizontal. It's certainly not a right angle turn.
Because some diagrams have sort of indicated it was sort of like a right angle. So this is like a bend, is it?
I think you'll see simple diagrams that represent this, that show that you drill down vertically and then you go horizontally. In truth and in fact, that angle is built up very gradually.
People are asking us, when is hydraulic fracking actually going to start?
Well, I've been pretty consistent that I try not to put out schedules, because they become targets, and our job here is to do it right rather than do it quickly. So we're drilling the first of the horizontal wells now. All I would say is that we should aim to be in the stimulation, the fracturing stage, sometime in the second quarter.
Now we can see the rig here today in its sort of current mode, but it will change when that operation gets underway, is that right?
Oh, this rig here is a drilling rig. It's here to drill the well, to construct the well, get the casing in, and then the rig will go away, and it's a completely different set of equipment that will come in. This will all go away, the equipment will come in to fracture stimulate the well, and then that'll go away, and we'll put it onto production test floor.
Some people are asking, how long is this all, once the fracturing actually starts, how long that will take?
The fracturing itself will take several months. It's 2 wells, horizontal wells that are 1 kilometre long, and it's a process that will take several months to complete.
Now, there's one or two questions about the chemicals that are actually going to be used in this process. What will they be, and why are they needed?
Yeah, most of what goes into the well, the process is essentially pumping water until it creates small fractures in the rock deep under the surface. The water itself will contain sand, fairly standard sand as we'd be used to. Its only difference is that it's sieved down to be all being exactly the same size of grain. When you remove the pump pressure on the water returns, and the sand will stay in the fractures, in the cracks, prop them open. That makes a permeable layer that can allow the gas to go from the rock into the fractures into the well to the surface, and then the gas can go into the grid. And the only other additive that we use, less than about 0.5%, is something called polyacrylamide, and that's basically there to reduce friction on the sand and allow the sand to go further into the fractures.
A question is taking us back to those cores again, and obviously you've done the cores in the vertical. Are you going to take cores from the horizontal as well?
No, there's no plan. Now, we took the core in order to establish what the best place was, what the best location was to drill the horizontal wells. So now we will just drill those in the standard way.
Almost inevitably, I think we've got a question about seismic activity. There is, as I understand it, some natural seismic activity all the time, but how are you going to be monitoring it during the course of this whole operation?
Well, there's a system in place that's government regulated and that we have to follow, where we'll basically be proceeding with caution, and we have microseismic, so we have listening devices that can tell us if there's potential for that to happen, in which case we'd assess the situation.
I think this is going to have to be the last question in this particular section. How are you going to actually monitor the fracturing in each of you've got two wells? How are you going to monitor the actual fracturing as it goes along?
Well, again, it's down to what we call microseismic. When we're fracturing one well, we'll have microseismic, so tiny listening devices, and they'll pick up and be able to pinpoint where the fractures are occurring and how they're propagating.
Mark, thanks very much indeed for the moment. We're now going to look at how the local community is benefiting from all the activity here at this site. So how does Cuadrilla actually monitor the benefit it's doing here in Lancashire? Well, it's got a thing called a Putting Lancashire First tracker, which monitors the local economy, jobs created, and opportunities through the supply chain, to name but a few. The latest indications are that nearly £7 million has been invested in the Lancashire economy, with the creation of over 50 full-time and contract jobs. This rig has meant real employment for real Lancashire people, and we're going to meet one of them now. It's Arthur Parson. He's from the Preston area. And Arthur, if I may interrupt you doing your important work here, and to reflect on the fact that I think you first worked for Cuadrilla in 2009?
Yeah, I worked back in 2009. I worked for Cuadrilla for 4.5 years. I was a local person who applied for the jobs they advertised, which was a well service technician. There were 7 of us in total got took on. 5 of us worked on the drilling rig mainly. We worked around various areas, gained experience.
Because you hadn't had any experience in this industry at all. What were you doing before that?
I was doing HAV mechanic. Obviously, I didn't have any experience on the, but I had hands-on stuff, which is practical and obviously doing the work and stuff like that. But previously, it was just mechanical, you know. But I saw the job advertised. I met the skills they wanted. Got taken on, and obviously then come onto the drilling rig, worked through the positions, through to lease hand, to all the way up to AD, assistant driller. So you have to get there. You have to do the lease hand position, then the roughneck position, which is working the rig floor. And then you have to go to the derrickman. Once you learn all the skills of each job, you can move forward and progress, which is a good thing. You could, with the company, you could do.
But it's not easy, is it? I mean, you know, obviously in this industry, if you haven't got any experience, you can't get the job. If you can't get the job, you can't get the experience. It can be a bit of a vicious circle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's very difficult to get taken on for oil and gas companies because you haven't got the experience. So to get the experience, you've got to be working for them, which is very difficult to get on. A lot of friends I know who've tried to get taken on haven't had the opportunity to go forward because they won't take them on because they've no experience. But with Cuadrilla coming to the area, at the time they took a few of us on, and give us all a chance basically, and obviously we're all capable of doing it. I'm no different to anyone else locally. Everyone's capable of doing it. They took us all on. But we worked all through the ranks, through the positions, and yeah, they get interested in training. Guided us through each position, and the lads above you all trained you up and showed you what to do and how it's done.
So yeah. Everything was hunky-dory, but then of course getting planning permission for this became very lengthy, and you were actually made redundant because no progress could be made.
Yeah, that's correct. But that's correct. We all waited for permission to go through. Also, the crews were ready to go and start drilling around here. But also the permission got refused. That meant a lot of lads made redundant. I think about 20 odd lads who all lost their jobs, 25 who lost their jobs because of that result.
Including yourself.
So what
did you do?
Well, I ended up obviously job searching, looking like you do, and searching for jobs, and I found a job which was contracting back HGV mechanicking. But it wasn't locally the same. The money wasn't the same. To get the same money, I had to go far afield. I had to go to London.
London?
Yeah, London. I had to work in London. I had to travel down every week. I was away for Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday many a times, working longer hours to get the same kind of money, And plus, I was away from my family, which can be difficult on family. Your family life at home is less. Whereas on the drilling rig, I was working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which gave you obviously you worked away for the 2 weeks. But then the 2 weeks you had at home, which was good quality family time. But when I did the HGV mechanicking, I seemed to be away quite a lot. I had to work hard, earn more.
Well, eventually the permission was given, and you're back now. So what are you doing here?
The permission got passed, and which was great news for us all around here, especially for myself and other people in the same position as me who want to get the experience to work on the rig. The opportunity with Cuadrilla is here. At the moment now, I'm not on the drilling side, whereas I'm operating the rig work like I was doing, working through obviously the drilling side of the rig. I'm on the other side, which is obviously I'm working closely with the DSV, which is a drilling supervisor, or a company man as he's known. He gives us many jobs and what to do and things need doing, like such as casing here, which is for the next section. Levels loading it out, strapping it, numbering it, checking the threads. Also like drill bits as well, we're checking them when they're coming in, make sure they're all right, the numbers match up, see our numbers match. And we do a lot of backloading and unloading as well, so unloading as well. So
over these years you've acquired a large number of skills. Arthur, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. And we're now going to go and see another aspect of this where other people are getting skills through support from Cuadrilla. We've come off-site to the stadium of AFC Fylde, who are hoping to get into the Football League. And we've come here to see how the work that's going on at Preston New Road is supporting activities both here and right across Lancashire.
Lucas, go back up top. Jack's drop.
We've come to these excellent training pitches, and there's very close contact between Cuadrilla and AFC Fylde, as Tom Hutton, who's the Director of Community Development at AFC Fylde's Community Foundation, is now going to explain. How did all this connection start, Tom?
Okay, so it was about 2.5 years ago, and the foundation, the charitable side of the football club, was really growing at a really consistent and fast pace. And obviously we were aware of Cuadrilla as an organisation. Obviously a lot of the communication from the Cuadrilla was all about community, payback and care for the community, and all about sort of becoming a good neighbour. So we approached Cuadrilla and said, look, this is what we're about as a charity. This is what we believe in. We believe we've got the same focus, the same ethos, organisations. So how can we work together? How can we really reach out to benefit those most at need in our community? So it all started quite small, believe it or not. It was a really small 6-week project. We worked with a number of young people who may not have the opportunity to take part in holiday-based activities down at the old training ground at Kelmer Park, light years away from where we are today with these facilities. And really from there, it's been quite a sort of a sustainable and positive growth plan since then.
So I'm getting the impression that you're actually talking about sort of outreach work, really getting to some people who are perhaps a bit detached from society?
Yeah, so through our partnership with Cuadrilla and Spirit Energy, obviously, a main focus of what we do is actually going out and engaging with adults and young people who are most disengaged, disadvantaged from the employment market. So part of the role is to go out into the community to work with people who may not normally take part in activities, to support them to gain employment, who need a bit of a confidence boost, who maybe just want a bit of a professional friendship creating. That's one of the key things of the role. It's going out and working in the heart of the community. Now that obviously, improves the whole sort of socio economic outlook for the area. It's about getting people into jobs, into employment, and creating a real positive feel within the community.
Just want to have a quick word about this futsal. I mean, this is the
Yeah.
hook for a lot of youngsters, isn't it? And this isn't just sort of a kickabout. This is working with some people who are sort of thinking possibly about some professional engagement with the game.
Yes, well, a lot of these young people here are 16 to 18. Well, all of them, should I say, are 16 to 18. They're all actually, working with us on a full-time basis. They're all studying at college. They're all actually, getting real-life work experience, opportunities in the community, and they're also playing at a good standard. Now, one of our key focuses is, some of these young people might have an aspiration to, go and play full-time futsal, full-time football, but we want to create good people for society that are actually going to make a positive difference in their community, and that's one of the core focuses of this programme.
So we're now into the new year, 2018. What do you hope to be the real target markers for the year?
Well, obviously more of the same, positive engagement, working with those who most require our support. There's two core areas of work for 2018 that we're looking to focus on. Obviously, I've spoke briefly about the socio-economic development of the community through the role that our partnership have created. But we're also looking to work with adults and young people who are living with a range of disabilities in the community. So we're looking to deliver some independent living support programmes. Now that will focus on everything from physical activity, getting people engaged in the community. That will focus on, for example, getting them out and about in the community, improving self-confidence. And also, we're going to be running quite unique things like cooking classes, etc. So quite unique, but really innovative as well.
Getting the lads cooking.
Yeah, well, got to give it a go. If no one taught me, I'd be really struggling right now.
So Tom, now we've come to the education facility. Obviously it's not complete yet. When do you expect it to be fully in operation?
Well, it's a golden question. Obviously we've been in construction for about 12 months now, just short of 12 months, with a fair wind, with Mother Nature on side. We're hoping, back end of spring, it'll be a fully functioning community and education centre.
And what's going to be the purpose of it?
Okay, so it's going to be, first of all, home for the foundation. So the foundation is going to have its own home. Within the centre, we've got two main blocks. So we've got the block that's directly behind us here. This is where the heart of sort of the educational engagement will take place. So we've got a total of 4 classrooms. Obviously, they're all going to be kitted out with, state-of-the-art equipment. It's going to be a really first-class learning environment for both adults and young people. We've got meeting rooms, both for the foundation to use. We've also got changing facilities, because obviously it is, sport is a really good sort of engagement tool for young people and adults to work with. So we've got changing facilities so people can go and take advantage of the wonderful pitches we've just been on. And we've also got, and as I said, it is effectively a mini college. We've also got a canteen on site, so healthy, nutritious food, really sort of subsidised rate for the young people so they can, have a really healthy and balanced diet which will enhance their physical and mental well-being.
Just to talk to you a little bit more about the combination of sort of academic study and being part of the sort of football environment and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously youngsters have got to learn as well as play futsal and stuff like that. Just talk to us a bit more about that.
I mean, absolutely, education is key. And one of our big sort of initial discussions we have both with young people who join in with the foundation's activities and the partnerships activities and with adults who we engage with. Football is a fantastic, sport. Majority of the country will tolerate and watch and enjoy football, but educational outcomes are really, really key. So as part of the study, so for example, you take the futsal programme, all the students, 60% of their time is in the classroom, 40% roughly is out training on the pitches and playing matches. So all the students will take part in a vocational level 3 qualification, which is equivalent to 3 A-levels. They will go and take part in work experience weekly. They will, go and sample different aspects of sport, such as physiotherapy, sort of management aspects of sport, coaching, bit of practical, insights. But the key thing is the education is the driver for what we do. We want to create good people that can invest back into our community. And as I said, well, if they do become a professional, fantastic, but we want to create really, really good people for our community.
Not everybody can. I mean, frankly, they need skills for life if things don't work out in the football sense.
Exactly, and that's what we're about, and it's creating a rounded person, and that's the educational element. And diversification of what we do is really, really key as well. This facility will allow us to diversify what we're offering. You know, for example, there's opportunities to, you know, deliver management programs around football. You've got engagement with, you know, females. You know, the female game is growing massively. There's opportunities there. We've also got adult education opportunities. So it really is a, you know, a massive facility that will really benefit the whole community.
Tom, your enthusiasm is fantastic. Thank you very much indeed for a really, really informative tour.
No, thank you for coming.
Tom Hutton, and before him Arthur Parsons, showing the job and community benefits from what's going on here at Preston New Road. Time now for our second round of questions with Mark Lappin, the Technical Director of Cuadrilla. Keep them coming in the chat box you can see at the bottom of the screen. And the first sort of questions that are coming in are about that commitment to the local community. Exactly how many jobs have you created here?
Well, so far for this site we've got 55 full-time jobs. Some of those are permanent employees, some of them are contractors, but 55 full-time jobs. And
there are all sorts of skills around here, you know, that you're employing people to do, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the site like this, as we've seen as we've been moving around, it's got all sorts of requirements, telecoms, scaffolding, electrical works, all the sort of thing you see on many sites around the country, and we need those people. We're bringing them in to help us get the operations going.
And the next question really is, in terms of spending, because obviously money is very important to the local community, how much have you spent in the local community so far?
Well, because of all those requirements, and we are giving a lot of work and looking to give work to local businesses, local companies, through our work with the two local chambers, the North and Western Chamber and the East Lancashire Chamber. We've managed to go to an awful lot of companies, some quite small, others not so small, and in total it comes to just in the last year or two £7 million into the local economy. About £6 million of that is direct, and about £1 million is indirect payment.
That's fine, but there is a question of saying, you know, how can these figures be verified? I mean, is it just your word, or are they independently verified?
No, we have an independent audit that goes through all of the numbers and ensures that they're signed off as being bona fide supplies into our work.
Now, we've got some questions coming in now which partly relate to what we were talking about earlier on.
Okay.
And it's a question from Michelle. It's just coming into my ear now. And it's, do you have a well inspection report, she's asking?
A well inspection report, I'm assuming that's related to the integrity of the well itself, because our well is the well and all the work we do, the drilling, is regulated by a number of organisations. A well inspection report, well integrity, is how we deal with the health and safety executive, and we work with them before we start up. We send them regular reports of our work. They come and inspect, and when the well is complete, they'll work with us to say that we have the well integrity that we require based on the data that we have.
John's asking, are you going to use big data here? And if I could just slip in a question before you answer that, what exactly does he mean by big data?
Oh, big data, I mean, we've had computing science for decades now, and I think now in an awful lot of areas, smart cities, smart roads, all of this sort of thing, you're starting to see that we've collected an awful lot of data in a lot of sectors, including our own, that we're struggling to use. So my expectation is that in the development stage, the production stage, big data will help us work with all of the production data that we get. At this stage of exploration drilling, it's good but relatively standard engineering, and doesn't have a requirement for big data.
We've got a really good question now. Unfortunately, the person didn't want to give their name, and it's about gas prices. Once you start feeding gas from here into the gas system, are we going to pay cheaper gas bills?
Well, in the exploration stage, I guess there are a lot of answers that begin with it depends. It depends how much is found. I mean, if we're importing a lot of gas, there's a cost to importing, there's a cost to transportation. If you have enough gas and the cost of production is low and it's economically viable, then it certainly wouldn't be more expensive. You wouldn't pay any more, but the benefits, of course, are way beyond that. That if we're buying gas and putting gas into our grid that's local as opposed to being imported, then there are all sorts of other benefits around jobs and tax revenue.
A question from Charles basically is how much gas would you expect to extract from here before it's completely exhausted? It's probably quite a tricky question to answer.
Well, again, that's back to the it depends in the exploration stage. That's what we're here for. We're here to find out how much gas we can recover. We know that we have a very large volume of gas in the ground over a very large area. The question we're here to answer, and all these wells are here is to find out how much that we can recover of that.
This seems to me quite a technical question, but I'm sure you'll explain it in your usual easy way.
Okay.
How many fracture holes are you going to do in each well?
Fracture stages, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Stages.
No, it's okay. Well, each lateral is intended to be a kilometre. I mean, to some extent, we'll work out and find out as we go along. But we have 2 lateral wells that will be drilled, and we could be putting in 40 fracture stages in each. It might be more, it might be less. We'll see as we go along.
Another slightly technical. How will production flow testing work?
Well, once the reservoir has been stimulated and we've got gas, essentially the gas will flow from the rock into the fractures that will be sand plugged into the well and then up to the surface. And then what we'll do at that stage is we'll just monitor production and we'll balance various parameters to see how it's performing, and that'll give us an idea of how big an area, a volume we're accessing from underground. But I think that'll probably be the subject of a further one of our transmissions, PNR Live, as we go into that phase.
As you know, we've just been seeing some stuff about how the local community is going to benefit. And I think this is a question about what we've been discussing more recently in this webcast rather than what was on earlier on. And it's about the benefits. I mean, we've talked about the jobs benefits and that sort of thing. How else will the local community benefit?
Well, for each well that we drill, there's a commitment to distribute £100,000 into the community. We're at our second well, so therefore there have been 2 payments of £100,000. The first one went into essentially a community fund that will be administered independently of ourselves with its own panel. Then the money will go into what local people want it to go towards for a general benefit, and then
they'll decide that, will they?
The panel will work with local people on ideas independent of our input as to what is of benefit to the area, and then with the second payment of £100,000 based on consultation, the decision was for that money to be distributed directly to households.
The question's just coming in. Just coming in now, and it's a question about to you really. What's the best part of being a geologist?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure I could even say I am one anymore, but I am one by background. I think having an understanding of the outdoors and the environment, and seeing the landscape and understanding how it forms is great. It makes beach holidays more interesting. We look at the cliffs.
I bet you're a bit of an anorak when you're on the beach. Oh, look at this pebble, look at that one.
The only man in an anorak.
The next question is, what is the implications of drawing horizontally on the surface? Is there any impact at all?
You're 2.5 kilometres below, and you'll have seen the pipe that's down there. It's that sort of size. So no impact whatsoever.
Can I just
2.5 kilometres below the surface.
Just before we I think we're drawing to a close fairly soon, but just coming back to this question of local businesses and your interaction with them, I mean, what's the response been from local business?
Well, local business is very interested. Of course, there are opportunities here for them to engage with us and use money from us to basically keep their businesses going and pay their staff. We're doing a lot of standard work that local businesses are already doing. That we're not inventing scaffolding, telecoms, and those sorts of things. So they're interested in joining us. We've had over 600 local Lancashire businesses express an interest through the portal that we have.
And that's how you're going to ensure that local businesses can interact with you into the future?
Into the future, absolutely. What we can do as we go forward is figure out exactly what we need and make sure through our work with the local chambers that people know what we're doing, when we're doing it, and we can basically bring in the local businesses and continue to do that.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. A whole range of questions there. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks to you for all the questions that you've sent in. We'll be back with another webcast. You can keep in touch with the details of that on our website. But thank you very much indeed for joining us at Preston New Road today.